When you think of Indian Railways, visions of beautiful landscapes, the inevitable delays, and a cast of quirky, diverse passengers likely come to mind. Indian Railways aren't just a mode of transport. It's a microcosm of India itself, embodying its diversity, its vastness, and the complexity of its stories. The fourth largest rail network in the world, it has been the backdrop of countless narratives, each carrying a snippet of human life, its triumphs, and its tragedies. In the infancy of India's independence, we had much to celebrate and much to condemn. For today's story, we quite literally hop onto a train, a journey from Indian Railways to Indian forensics. This is the story of Alavandar, a sari salesman who shaped the way we conduct forensic investigations. Hi everyone, welcome to the Desi Crime Podcast, a show where we dive deep into some of the craziest stories from around South Asia. I'm your host Aryaan.
And I'm Aishwarya.
And the case we have for you today can be found in the annals of Indian forensic history. Mentions can still be found in old medical textbooks. Aishwarya, we at Desi Crime, I think, enjoy covering cases that are from yesteryear, cases that mainstream media hasn't really covered, and this is one of those cases.
And these cases come with their own set of challenges in terms of the amount of data that's recorded online, the amount of assets available for a YouTube video, for example, to be able to depict a picture for you all. But I think they're also interesting because, like you said, they tell the story of a time bygone, of an India that we may not remember fully in our own lives, but we get to live it through these stories.
Aishwarya, this case is based in 1952, much like our dietary habits, specifically our protein intake. Beta, how much protein have you had today?
Only one katori dal.
Beta, one katori is not enough to hit your macros.
But how should I hit my macros if whey protein hasn't been invented yet?
You're in 2024 and whey protein has been invented and Whole Truth Foods is selling the tastiest, most honest and cleanest protein on the market. Then what's your excuse to not hit your macros or eat optimal protein? You see, protein is not just something gym bros should be concerned about. It's something that concerns everyone, whether you're in your 30s, 40s or 50s, especially our parents. Protein is important for their muscle strength, their bone density and their general well-being.
Absolutely, just for healthy bodies. And for people like my mom, for Aryaan's mom, who are all vegetarians, their protein intake literally comes from one katori dal.
And there's a simple solution to this protein conundrum, guys. It's supplementing a bit of whey protein. But we all know how our parents' boomer generation feels about whey protein. You know, when I started my fitness journey, I used to have these big cartons of whey lying at home and my mom used to come up to me and be like, "Beta, what are you doing? Are these drugs? These are not good for you." And it took years of convincing her that whey is actually good for you. So I tried to get her on it and I made her try different flavors from all different kinds of brands, but it always left this aspartame-y artificial sweetener aftertaste in her mouth, and so she never enjoyed it until I made her try the pista badam flavor, which is quite reminiscent of childhood flavors that she already knew of, and this was her reaction. You've tried whey protein before. What are your thoughts on how it tastes?
Okay, I mean, not a big fan.
Not a big fan, okay. And because, why are you not a big fan of the whey proteins that you've had before?
I find them very sweet.
Fair enough. Okay. Ma, here's a flavor of whey protein from Whole Truth. It is pista badam. There is no added sugar. There is no artificial sweetener. Okay. Take a sip. Let me know what you think.
Good.
It's whey protein. Can you believe that?
You know, it tastes like doodh which we had in bottles in Kanpur.
Yeah.
And I was a regular drinker of that milk bottle.
It's like badam milk that we had.
Badam milk.
If you, like Aryaan, want to manipulate your parents or relatives into finally hitting their protein intake goals, go get your hands on the cleanest, tastiest, most honest protein out there on the market, which also comes in incredible, really desi flavors like this pista badam one that we know they're going to love. For that, head to thewholetruthfoods.com and use code DESI20 at checkout for 20% off your order.
The Indo-Ceylon Express or Rameshwaram Boat Mail Express connects Chennai and Rameshwaram. It is one of the top most prestigious trains of Indian Railways and it completed 100 years of service in 2014. What makes this route special, apart from the reason you clicked on this episode, is that it overlooks one of the most breathtaking scenes on the Indian Railways. On 29th August 1952, it was just another day on this route. Passengers in the third class compartment were enjoying these panoramic views of the ocean, when instead of the ocean, they smelled something foul, rotten, and quite disgusting. The passengers noticed it came from a trunk placed under a seat and informed the guards on the train. The smell got so unbearable that the guard had to inform the station master at Madurai station, asking him to contact the police. Once at the station, the carriage of the train was separated from the rest of the train and the police started their investigation. Emptying the carriage of passengers and then their luggage, the police opened the steel trunk that was the cause of the smell. What was inside the trunk shocked the police. A headless male corpse. The hands and right leg were severed. He was wearing a singular green sock and a cloth string around his waist that is usually used to tie a lungi or a dhoti. In just a couple of hours, this beautiful journey had turned into a nightmare with an unidentified body stuffed in a trunk like regular luggage. In 2024, we have ways to identify a body, but in 1952, and a country that was just shaping itself into the nation it is now, identifying a severed, dismembered body was one of the most challenging tasks for the police, except, of course, catching the culprit. However, that did not deter them from trying to solve this case. The body was moved to the local forensic lab for initial analysis. The post-mortem revealed that the body was of a man in his early 20s, and the investigating officer, K. Khaja Saeed Mohideen, concluded that the person was Muslim because of the circumcised penis. The police had a vague idea as to who the victim was. However, little did they know that this entire investigation would flip over in less than 72 hours. At 4 p.m. on September 1st, 1952 at Royapuram Beach in Chennai, 500 kilometers away from Madurai, a severed head was found after the tides had moved the sand surrounding the burial area. It was spotted by locals on the beach who instantly called the authorities. It was evident that the head had been buried there a while ago because of the decomposition that made the face completely unrecognizable. The police were quick to react and the chief investigating officer, Ramanath Iyer, sent the head to Madras Medical College for further investigation. However, the press had a field day with this incident. Finding a severed head on a beach in one of the most well-developed cities in India and a headless body in a trunk of a popular train caught the attention of every media outlet present in Madras. The press hoarded the police station, asking questions, connecting dots, and drawing conclusions. This media storm was one of the reasons why the police were motivated to solve it as soon as possible. Dr. Gopalakrishnan was known for his forensic prowess, and it was him who blew the case wide open. The body and the head arrived separately, initially treated as different cases, and through Gopalakrishnan's help, it was concluded that this is the same person. When the dismembered body parts were fitted together, they fell perfectly into place. 3 days after the body was found in a trunk on Indo-Ceylon Express, police finally had a lead, despite the outdated forensic techniques at the time.
Aryaan, your mention of outdated forensic techniques makes me want to ask this question. But are we still, like, if we have body parts that are severed and we are trying to match them to each other, are we still doing it this way where we're fitting them together like puzzle pieces and seeing if the ridges kind of match?
No. 1952 might be 70 years ago, but thankfully that's not what we were doing. I'll get to how Dr. Gopalakrishnan figured out it was who the man was.
Got it.
The man now lying dismembered on the table of Madras Medical College was C. Alavandar. Born on May 12, 1910, he was a college-educated man who then went to serve the British Indian Army in World War II as a sub-divisional officer in Awadhi. Post-independence, Alavandar came back to Chennai to settle down and become a pen salesman working under Gems & Co. The business further expanded and started selling saris and other plastic products, attracting more women to the shop. Alavandar, however, was not known for his amazing sales techniques. He was known for his promiscuity. You might be wondering that Alavandar is not a Muslim name, and in fact, the mystery of his circumcision was solved when his wife confessed that Alavandar underwent the procedure and took opium frequently to improve his sexual performance. Justice A.S.P. Iyer, who delivered the judgment in this case, recorded, quote, He seems to have been a kind of Don Juan, end quote, a kind of Casanova basically. He would often give young women fountain pens as a gesture of goodwill. In those days, fountain pens were a luxury. The pens were a status symbol for people still reminiscing the British Empire, with each pen made with incredible precision. Buying a fountain pen in the 1950s was an equivalent to now buying a luxury watch. So you can imagine that Alavandar gifting these pens certainly put him in the good books of younger women. However, fountain pens were not the only way he would get women to interact with him. He also created monthly installments for saris. He would offer women to pay him back over the course of next few months for the expensive saris they were purchasing, in hopes of either securing a date with them or even forcing them to sleep with him if they are unable to meet the deadline. His friends recall that they always saw him in the company of a woman, talking, flirting, and sometimes even dating.
Okay, going from someone who's very flirtatious and sexually out there to someone who's forcing women to sleep with him when they don't pay him back for his saris, he just went from a flirty, promiscuous guy to kind of an asshole.
Yeah, he is somewhere in the middle. More than anything, Aishwarya, he was, cheating on his wife while he had kids. So even just the flirtiness of it wasn't really ethical. But he was just finding any way to get in bed.
How fascinating.
It is safe to say that Alavandar was a well-known man, but for all the wrong reasons. However, when on August 28, 1952, Alavandar did not show up to his shop as usual, his employer, Kannan Chetty, got a little suspicious. Chetty reached out to Alavandar's home, hoping that he had an explanation behind not coming to work that day. But instead, he found out that the pen salesman had not returned home the previous night either. Concerned about his whereabouts, Chetty, along with Alavandar's family, filed a missing person report. The news was also published in the Hindu with the headline, quote, "City Businessman Missing." While investigating the missing case, police found out that Alavandar had been last seen talking to a woman, Devaki Menon. When asked about Devaki, Alavandar's wife confirmed that she did in fact know her, and so she went to her house to ask about her husband. Devaki's husband, Prabhakar, had answered the door and said that Alavandar did not visit them that day. Dejected, his wife left their house. However, when Alavandar's dead body was found, pieced back together and identified through the army fingerprints from his time in World War II, Alavandar's wife was asked to come in and verify that it was indeed her husband. 3 unrelated cases across Tamil Nadu, one of a disappearance, one of a severed head, and one of a severed body, were now one case. The case of C. Alavandar's murder. Chief Officer Ayyar immediately realized that the key to solving this murder somehow lay with Devaki and Prabhakar Menon. But who exactly was this couple? The police found out that the couple got married in June of 1952 and they lived together in a house on 62 Cemetery Road, Royapuram. So, much like Alavandar's wife, Ayyar too decided to pay the couple a visit, but when he entered the house, he saw that it was completely vacated. No sign of the Menons, even though they were present a few days ago when the wife had visited them. His suspicion about the couple's involvement in the murder was confirmed when he saw blood splatters inside the house. Upon questioning the staff, a 13-year-old boy who worked for the couple confirmed that the trunk that was found on the train, the same one that started this investigation, the one from which the rotten smell was coming, belonged to Prabhakar, and that him and Devaki were planning to move to Bombay. This was despite the fact that they had a stable job at an insurance company in Madras. Ayyar and his team immediately set out for Bombay to look for the couple. With the help of the Bombay police, they were able to locate the couple. In fact, at the time of the arrest, Prabhakar had Alavandar's pen, the same one he used to sell, in his shirt. The Menons were brought back to Madras for trial. However, it seems odd that a couple would go out of their way to murder an ordinary, albeit, unideal businessman. Why would they murder Alavandar so brutally and then flee the life they had built together over this time period? How did he even know Devaki? Upon talking to Alavandar's wife and friends as well as the couple themselves, the police pieced together Devaki's history with the businessman. Devaki Menon was born in Palakkad, Kerala, as the eldest daughter of a retired railway official. She was a college-educated woman, a rare thing in the 1950s, and had moved to Madras to promote social work. In 1951, Devaki, a 21-year-old woman then, was involved in Hindi prachar work and had come to Gem & Co. to buy herself, you guessed it, a fountain pen. There she met Alavandar, who quickly impressed her, and the pair became friends. But this friendship slowly turned into something more, just as Alavandar wanted, and the two slept together in October of 1951 in a hotel based in Georgetown. As their relationship progressed, Devaki demanded to get married, but realized that Alavandar was already married and had 2 children. She also realized that he was addicted to opium and acted abusive towards women in his life. The man that she fell in love with was a serial womanizer and had tricked her into intimacy. Not only that, but he was also committing infidelity on a regular basis with no remorse. Infuriated, she cut off all ties with him and ended their relationship. But Alavandar was not one to accept defeat this easily. You see, his friends claimed that he felt a sense of ownership over Devaki and kept trying to talk to her, even after her marriage to Prabhakar Menon in June of the following year. Prabhakar worked at a premier insurance company, and witnesses mentioned that he was a well-behaved, loving husband. However, Alavandar was hell-bent on being with Devaki again. He threatened to tell Prabhakar about their relationship if she refused to sleep with him. It is interesting to know that Alavandar refused to marry Devaki initially, however still chose to meddle with her life after she ended things with him. One day, Prabhakar and Devaki went to Gem & Co. to buy pens for Prabhakar. Alavandar pounced on that opportunity and congratulated the couple on their marriage. He continued to behave intimately with her, referring to inside jokes and making lewd comments in front of her husband. This interaction planted seeds of doubt in Prabhakar's mind, doubting the loyalty of his own wife. In another instant, the couple went to watch a late-night movie, but Alavandar accidentally bumped into them there as well. Angry and ashamed, Prabhakar confronted Devaki about her past relationships, asking her to come clean in front of him. Devaki broke down in front of her husband, telling him everything that happened between her and Alavandar. She told him how they met, what kind of a man he is, and how he has been harassing her for months while she silently endured in order to protect her marriage. To put this in perspective, it was the 50s in a country where somehow till this day, piousness of a woman is judged by her body count. So this was clearly a big deal. An unmarried woman had slept with someone other than her husband. However, Prabhakar still accepted his wife against the norms of that day. He understood that she had a life before him and that her relationship with Alavandar was a thing of the past that she was desperately trying to get rid of. The couple came up with a plan to solve this problem. Together, much like Bonnie and Clyde. On August 28, 1952 at 11 am, Devaki Menon visited Gem & Co. to meet Alavandar. She asked him if he could come over that afternoon to her house as her husband would be out of town and they could reconnect. Alavandar immediately agreed to see her later that day. Kanan Chetty, Alavandar's boss, recalls seeing him leave for Devaki's house and get into a rickshaw. Other witnesses claim that they saw him knock on her doorsteps. Once inside the house, Alavandar was under the influence of opium and immediately made a move on Devaki. He attempted to undress her as she resisted, and witnessing all of this, Prabhakar Menon, who was in the house, attacked Alavandar and a scuffle ensued between the men. The Menons were able to overpower a high Alavandar and tie him to a chair in their house. Once tied to the chair, Alavandar kept yelling profanities and passing comments on Devaki's character. Enraged, Prabhakar grabbed a Malabar knife and stabbed Alavandar multiple times. He then proceeded to chop his head off and started packing the headless body in a steel trunk. Prabhakar took Alavandar's head, wrapped it in his own shirt, and then proceeded to take a rickshaw to the beach where he disposed of the head by burying it in the sand. Afterwards, he went to the Egmore station where he asked the rickshaw driver to help him load the steel trunk onto the Indo-Ceylon Express, disposing the murder knife in a park in Broadway Road.
Aryaan, you've just gone from the image of a loving, caring husband and a seemingly progressive man for the 1950s who's just on a whim chopped this man's head off and planned this murder and very calculatedly put it on a train.
Yeah.
He showed no signs of violence, no aggression ever before that.
Well behaved is the quote that his sort of acquaintances gave about him.
Wow.
So I think what happened was that they were planning some sort of revenge. I feel that they were planning to murder him, but people speculate that this was, he just wanted to beat him up or whatever
and
it
got
was.
out of hand.
But when under the influence of opium, or perhaps because of his character, when he made those lewd comments towards Devaki, is when I think something just switched, which made it partly premeditated and partly a crime of passion. I think it's a mix of the two.
That makes sense.
In a cold and calculated manner that Aishwarya suggests that's very unbecoming of himself, he returned home and the couple decided to forget about the incident till Alavandar's wife came knocking on their door the very next day. The couple hatched a plan to leave Madras for Bombay, where they will settle down permanently, they thought. However, they were caught by the Madras and Bombay police. The trial for this case was one of the most sensationalized trials of the time, where a mob would wait outside the courtroom, supporting and or condemning the couple. This is exactly where the events of August 28, 1952 were conflicted. The prosecution was convinced that this was a premeditated murder. How can a man be okay knowing that his wife slept with somebody else before in the 1950s? Therefore, they concluded Prabhakar had lured Alavandar inside the house and then proceeded to murder him, dismember him, and dispose of him in such an accurate manner. Initially, the Menons completely denied the murder, but then their own house help turned against them. The 13-year-old boy recalled that he had overheard the couple talking about Alavandar and how they had gotten rid of him. He also remembers how Prabhakar had given him the day off on the day of the murder and given him money to go explore the city. However, the defense continued to suggest that it was an act of provocation and self-defense. Alavandar had been taunting the couple, harassing Devaki, and assaulted her inside her own home. Prabhakar's actions were not planned but rather a crime of passion, which explains the eyewitness, haste burial of the head in sand, and not fleeing Madras immediately. The case could be argued either way. Well, if it was truly accidental, then the couple did an amazing job of quickly thinking on their feet and disposing the body away from the head to avoid identification. But then why did they not factor in the numerous eyewitnesses, including the rickshaw driver, Alavandar's boss, and even their own house help? The trial lasted 7 days and over 55 eyewitnesses, and each day the couple would have to be transported with extra security because of the sheer amount of attention this case got. The unnatural way of disposing of the body and the nature of the murder hooked people in. In fact, the forensic feat of this case is still referred to in multiple Indian medical books, especially the way Dr. Gopalakrishnan was able to trace the fracture of the vertebrae with the way it was chopped off from the body. So to some degree, Aishwarya, your speculation about fitting the two together and seeing if there is a similarity was correct.
How fascinating.
In the end, Devaki and Prabhakar Menon were found guilty of killing C. Alavandar, and a mountain of evidence was used to back up the sentence. Blood splatters in the house and Alavandar's blood on the couple's clothes were some of them. Prabhakar was given 7 years of rigorous imprisonment and Devaki to 3 years of rigorous imprisonment under Section 304(1) culpable homicide not amounting to murder under the Indian Penal Code. The couple served their sentences and then moved to Kerala, where they set up a tea stall, which later developed into a successful hotel. The judge of the case, ASP Iyer, was scrutinized for a sympathetic ruling, but we ask you the question of whether or not the ruling was justified. Alavandar was clearly a troubled man, assaulting women, infidelity, and harassment. He was guilty on all those counts, yes. However, did he deserve the end waiting for him? How can we be the judge of people, and when can we be the judge of people? The Menons, especially Devaki, were also victims. However, the self-serving sentence that they passed to Alavandar is something that is debated upon till this day. People are grey, but is that not why the law exists? We urge you to ask yourself that question. But until then, stay safe, stay crazy, and stay Desi.
If you like what we do here at Desi Studios and absolutely love what we're wearing today, this is merch you can go buy all for yourself.
You can buy this Desi Crime merch in our YouTube store on the link down below at Kadak Merch. Keep the engines at Desi Studios rolling. We can pay our videographer right behind the camera to make these amazing episodes just for you.